Okay, we're on to 2.4 rational equations. Hopefully you remember what the word rational means when it comes to math. It is a number that can be written as a fraction. So we're going to talk about some equations with fractions in them. But there's something special about the fractions. They are equations where a variable can be found in the denominator of any term. So we have fractions and we have variables in at least one of the denominators of those terms. Of course, pause video, make sure you write that down. So why do we have a whole section on these? They're special because we have to check to see if all real numbers would work. We have to check something, check for something called excluded values. An excluded value is a number that makes the problem not work. So it causes some problems in your problem, and they could never, ever, ever be a solution. So an excluded value is never a solution. So what number would not be a solution to this problem? In other words, if you're looking at this equation, what number could be in the spot where the k is that will totally screw up your problem? It would give you all kinds of issues. So the number that's going to give us all kinds of problems is 0. Why is that? We are never allowed to divide by 0. Think about what division actually means. If you're doing 4 divided by 12, that means you have 4 objects and you want to split them into 12 groups. Well, you're going to get a fraction then. Hopefully, whatever your objects are things that could be broken apart. Likewise, if you have 12 divided by, say, 6, that means you have 12 objects. You're dividing them into 6 groups. Well, regardless of how many objects you have, you can never divide them into 0 groups. Think about literally having 4 items and trying to divide them into 0 groups. You can't. If you're saying, well, why isn't the answer 4? Well, that's divided into 1 group then. So you can never divide by 0. So that means right here, before we even solve this problem, we cannot have 0 as a solution for k. K can never equal 0. That's an excluded value. It's a number that makes the problem not work. You can't have 0 in the denominator. Okay? So that's your excluded value. And now let's go ahead and solve the problem. Hopefully you remember when you have a fraction equal to a fraction, you can cross multiply. 2 times 9 would be 18. And that would be equal to k times 4, which is 4k. Divide both sides by 4. And we get 9 over 2 for k. So 9 over 2 equals k. That's your solution. This is your excluded value. I'm going to ask you to give me both of those. Give the excluded value and the solution. Okay, number 2, state any excluded values and then solve the equation. So notice that just like the last one, this is a rational equation. We have fractions and we have variables in the fraction, in the denominator specifically. Okay? So first, to do the excluded values, well, again, we cannot have 0 in the denominator. So what number would we be able to plug in for r that would give me a 0 down here? You might see it right away. If you don't, that's okay. What you want to do is you want to take your denominator and say it cannot equal 0, and then you're just going to solve it like you would solve a regular equation. So you would add 4 on both sides, and we get that r cannot equal 4. That is your excluded value. Now, along with that, I also want you to solve the problem. Fraction equal to a fraction, you can cross multiply. It doesn't matter which cross you do first because it's an equation. Either one is fine. 3 times 8 is 24. When you do this other cross, though, you have to be very careful. You have to treat this as if it's in parentheses. which means you're going to be multiplying this, so you have distributive property. 24 equals 6r minus 24. Then we would add 24 on both sides. 48 equals 6r. And then divide by 6. And r equals 8. Okay, so two things you're giving me. You're giving me the excluded value and the solution. Understand which is which. Okay? When you are writing r is not equal to 4, I want you to also always write by that excluded value. Okay, this is the solution. This is your excluded value. Okay, pause the video and you guys try this one. Make sure you pause it. Don't just keep watching it right now. Pause the video. Okay, so far I've just done my excluded values. I have two of them in this case because I have two different denominators with h's in them. H cannot equal, whoops, I wrote the wrong thing though, -10, and h cannot equal -7. So I have two numbers of excluded values. Then for the solving, I would be cross multiplying again. I have 6 times h plus 7 using parentheses around the h plus 7. And same idea on the other one, 3 times the quantity h plus 10. Distributive property gives me 6h plus 42 and 3h plus 30. Subtract 3h on both sides. 3h plus 42 equals 30. Subtract 42. 3h equals -72. Move some stuff out of the way. And then I'm dividing by 3, sticking it in here. And 72 divided by 3, -72, would be -24. Okay, you should still be checking your answers, making sure you're not making any errors. Check your solutions, make sure they're right. So 3 different things that will be looked for on this problem. H equals does not equal -10, H does not equal -7, and H does equal -24. If you didn't get that, find your error, see what you did wrong, and correct it. Okay, number 4. I only have one denominator with a variable, so I'm saying that 1 plus 4y does not equal 0. Subtract 1. 4y does not equal -1. And then divide by 4. Y does not equal -1/4. Okay, and then we're solving. Now when you solve here, you can still think of it as cross multiplying, or you could think about how do you get the denominator basically to go away. You don't want to work with the fraction. Well, 65 is being divided by all of this. The opposite of division is multiplication, so you can multiply both sides by it. But I think it's easier if you think of this one as a fraction. To make any single number a fraction, you can just put it over 1. And then you can keep cross multiplying. And I think that's the easier way to think of it. So when we're solving here, we have 65. And when we cross multiply on this side, again, remember, it's 5 times the whole quantity, 1 plus 4y. So 65 equals 5 plus 20y. Subtract 5. 60 equals 20y. Divide by 20. And we get 3 equals y. So we have solution, and we have excluded value over here. Okay, be very aware of which number is your solution and which number is your excluded value. Okay, you guys try, take note of the hot tip there, pause the video, and try this problem. Okay, let's check this out. Let's block some of it off so we don't have so much to look at. So first of all, the hot tip. Actually, before the hot tip, let's just do the excluded value. So your denominator over here, you set it not equal to 0. Subtract 4 on both sides. Divide by -2 on both sides. Your excluded value is x cannot equal 2. Hot tip when you're solving, if there's a negative in front of a fraction, when you get to that point, put that negative in the numerator. What I mean by that, you have to be aware that if you have the fraction, say, negative 1/2, that is the same as having negative 1 over 2 or having 1 over negative 2. It is not the same as negative 1 over negative 2. You cannot put it in both places because then you have a negative over a negative and you really have a positive. Okay, so the red ones are equal, but those are not equal to the purple ones. So you should have got to a point when you were solving where that should have been important. So here is my first step. I chose to subtract 10. I wanted to get the 10 over with the 15. And it gave me this. At that point, I chose to make it a fraction so that I could cross multiply. But when I was doing that, after I eliminated the 10s here, I have this negative hanging out front. That's your hot tip. Put that negative sign up into the numerator. That way you know exactly where it goes and you're not wondering, hey, what do I do with this negative sign? Just put it up in the numerator. No big deal. Then when you're cross multiplying, remember to distribute the 5 to 4 minus 2x. And 1 times negative 70 now is negative 70. Okay? Then I subtracted 20, and I divided by negative 10 to get a final answer, x equals 9. Excluded values, x cannot equal 2. Solution is x equals 9. All right, your turn. Pause the video. I want the excluded values, and then I want you to solve. Okay, check it out. On part A, problem A, we got for the excluded value, x cannot equal negative 3. When I solved, go through the steps if you got something different, but when I solved, I got x equals negative 3. Do we see a problem with that? On one, we have x cannot equal negative 3. And on the other one, we get x does equal negative 3. So if your excluded value is the same thing as your solution, that's a problem. We can't say that the solution is something that we cannot have. We're saying we can't have this value, so how could that be our solution? It can't be. So that makes this whole problem no solution. So you can use your no solution symbol. You can use your set notation, the empty set or the null set notation with nothing in it. Or you could actually write out the words no solution. That choice is up to you, but you must write that. If you had this red circle and this blue circle as your answers, I would take off. That would not be a correct answer because you have not recognized that there is no solution to this problem. Okay, check out B. I moved the 5 over, and then I cross multiplied by putting the 3 over 1. My solution is 3. My excluded value is negative 2/3. Check your answers, see if you have what I have. If not, correct them, and then go ahead and move on to the rest of your packet. Good luck on the mastery check.